tricky spot for me right here. So this right here on clarinet, where we have there the F sharp, E sharp, F sharp. We do it here with these side keys. See, it's so particularly on the A clarinet, that reach for me is kind of hard. Now, that reach from the C down to the alternate F sharp. I don't know if that's because I've got a flaw in my technique I need to sort out. I don't know if that's because I'm on the A, and like I said, slightly longer. You know, there's a little like millimeters difference between where the keys would be on my B flat versus where they are on the A, or if it's because I have smaller hands and these things are just going to be more of a challenge. But that's a spot that, like, anytime something, a movement like that comes up in the repertoire, I do have to really work on it. Let's put the metronome back on. So I also want to really use that staccato to create that space. So let me alter my markings here. So I want to use that staccato to put a bit more space between. So I want to put a little space between the C and the F sharp. And then hopefully having that extra space will give my fingers a little time to like land properly on the F sharp. And then I would also practice getting into it. So I'd probably, let me get off the finger camera, do that for however long as I need to feel good about it. So that's what I had a teacher who taught this method. She called it shifting the window, and she would start with like that one low note two note transition, whatever it was, and she'd say like just practice that, then add one note before, then add one note after, then add, you know, and then make the section bigger. So that kind of shifting the window really helps. So this is how I would do that section. So I start with you can hear it. I'm still missing it a little bit. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna start right after that spot. I was doing so well too. So that's like the opposite. I'm not going on the alternate F sharp. It's just a normal one, but my pinky just missed. Again, is it an A clarinet thing? Is it just a bad practice day thing? Who knows, but it's worth noting. This edition's a little funky. Sometimes I feel like it's confusing because like a lot of the time where it's got these slurs and staccatos, I think sometimes the editor meant the staccato just means remember to tongue, so, and not so much, and to separate, but not so much like super short. But there are some inconsistencies, like here. I have that staccato there, but not one here, so I'm just gonna write it in. And there's also not one here or here. And I think that's just supposed to be a slur right there. So if reading the part is ever an issue, write in whatever you need to. You don't need my permission, but write in whatever you need to play it successfully and understand it. Don't be ashamed of yourself for having to like write something in or circle something that feels super obvious just because your brain was not doing it, and you want to make sure your brain does it in the future. I'm gonna do the next section. Let's put the metronome back on. changes. I'm having all those days where like articulation changes are just getting beyond me. So I'm going to circle that measure because they're all slurred. I think I did it successfully that time. This fingering here. It's another tricky one, or could be tricky for some people. So we have two ways on clarinet to finger that B natural A sharp / B flat situation. So you want to use your chromatic fingering here for the B natural, but it's not really easy or clean to get from here to the G, right? So you have to do a flip flop. So I like to flip there from the A sharp to the B natural. Some people might play the chromatic B all the way through and just get to the, and just practice until they get from there to the G cleanly. But passage, or not slower passage, but like the rhythm movement was slower. I might do it because intonation wise, the chromatic B tends to sound better. But for there, I think the flip flop is fine. So the ending is fun. It's kind of simple. I'm gonna go back to the beginning. I feel like it's taken me a little while to settle into this one. And now that I've settled a bit with help from the metronome, I want to go back to the beginning. So I'm going to turn it off, but we're going to keep about the same tempo. I know I'll probably speed up. So I'm going to go to the top again. Usually breathing is like the first thing I talk about, but I haven't talked about it here. There are no breaths written in the score. And the height part, he always has breaths written in. He put one in measure 6. 1, 2, 3. Which is that spot where I put that space. So that would make sense, right? Because it's such a hard transition. I would really love to only breathe there and make it to the repeat, to that bar of rest without having to take another breath. Let's see if I prepare correctly, if that's even possible. Yeah, that's not going to be possible. Even on my best, most relaxed, least humid day, I don't think I'd be able to do that, let alone consistently. So that breath there in measure 6 is fine, but let's see, I need another place to breathe, and I need one that makes sense, either because it's not that noticeable or because it makes sense in the phrasing. Nothing's really going to make sense in the phrasing, it's just constant 16th notes. I could grab one there, but I feel like that's still too far away from where I need to get. I think the best place to breathe might be to like break that slur, and there it is again. Might be to breathe here after that E. Let's try that. Did I even breathe there? I don't think I did. Let me do it again. I mean, kind of. I don't think it was great. Let's try a different one. I'm going to erase it for now, just so it doesn't confuse me. I think maybe the measure before might be better from a phrasing standpoint, or just from like an execution standpoint. No, I'm not going to go all the way back. I'm going to start just from the measure with the first breath I wrote in. I didn't do it. Maybe that'll work. I really think this is one of those where it's basically just going to come down to personal preference and what facilitates your technique, because they're all going to sound kind of awkward, because this is definitely like one of those studies I can envision a violinist playing and it just goes and goes. And like it's musical, you know, there's ebb and flow, push and pull, but there aren't really any breaks. So this is something I would need to live with for a little while to figure out what works for me as a clarinetist, as a wind player who does not circular breathe. The rest of the piece, or the study, there are places to breathe, like here. And I think I can probably make it there if I get a big breath here, like big breath. And then again, we have this rest here. And then from there to the end, can I do it in one breath? Let's see. No, because I started making technical mistakes because I was running out of air and my brain went to, oh my gosh, I need oxygen. Again, there's nowhere amazing to breathe, really. You know what I like to do usually is like drop a 16th note. If it works okay, just to get a good breath, because I want to make sure I finish strong. And also this part here, I want to make sure I have the oxygen to my brain to make sure I don't do something weird and wrong there. So I'm thinking maybe like I'll drop this G right here and take the breath. That's a bad breath mark. And take the breath there. Still a bad breath mark, but slightly better. Let me try that. Made some mistakes, but I think that could work. In case you're curious where I'm coming from with the breaths and such in these, when I learned these studies as a student, I got into a habit. I'm not gonna call it a bad one, but I would say it's not always terribly useful, but I got into a habit of just stopping and breathing and then jumping back in whenever I needed to. And that wasn't by my own design. That was how my teacher at the time taught me to do it. She said for lessons when I'd been assigned to study, to just these technical ones, to just take a breath and then jump back in with the metronome, which is fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with practicing that way. However, that doesn't really lend itself well to creating music, because if you were going to play this as an unaccompanied piece, like think about the way like string players would play like a unaccompanied Bach piece, and a lot of those were written. I might be saying this wrong. If I am, excuse me, but a lot of those were written like as practice pieces, as studies. But when you play it live, you wouldn't just take a random breath and then keep going. I mean, we all do sometimes. We have those moments in performance where things just go off the rails and we have to just take a breath and then carry on. But you wouldn't try for that. So I have retained this unhelpful habit of, my baby hairs are driving me crazy. I'm so sorry. I have retained this unhelpful habit of just like when I'm working on a technical study, just treating it like a technical study, breathe when I have to, and then carry on, and being more focused on, the technical work, the finger work, the staying in time, making sure my rhythms are clear. And that's all fine and good, but I don't think it should be or is the only way to practice that. So I'm going to work on that. It's going to be my own personal challenge that I'm setting myself. Yeah, but I don't think there's anything wrong, especially if you're new to clarinet, or you're working through studies with the sole objective of just improving your technical work. Then that's fine. I mean, I would like to challenge myself and anybody else to like practice moving your focus when you're playing a piece of music. Or, you can say, okay, today I'm playing this just as a study. I'm just going to zero in on like the technical work or the rhythm work and make sure I've got that just right. And I'm not going to worry about anything else. But then come back to it and say, okay, well, now I'm going to make this a listenable piece of music. I'm going to play through this again and try to implement these changes I made. I didn't write a whole lot of them down this time, but I'm going to play it again. And I'm going to try and keep that in mind. But I might just like pause and take breaths, because I realize now that's how I practiced it before. So that's kind of what's in my memory. But I'm going to try to do better this time. So let's see how that goes. I'm going to give myself this tempo again. Grit there at the end, but I think I want to pull back just a little bit just to place that last note.